Hello, and happy day 5 on the Shaman and Youth Sneak Peek Shaman Training with me, Holly Beatty, Joyful Warrior. I am so excited to dive into today's story. It actually is the first time that I ever had an encounter with the white eagle that has really been with me my whole life. So in this story, I am in 7th grade, which means I'm 12, and it is PE class. Now, my middle school was a rather large campus, and it had a small high school feel, 7th, 8th, and 9th grade. So PE consisted of running a track on this day. And I think we were preparing to run the mile on the presidential fitness test or something at the time. So we were running and running. And in this moment, I have just finished running, and there are other people still um, pumping out the laps that they need to, but I've finished a little early and I have some time. So I go to sit down on a fire hydrant that's near the track. And just as I sit down, I am drawn to look up into the sky. And I see in my mind's eye, no, I don't think anybody else could see, but in my own mind's eye, I see an enormous white bird that has a feeling of an eagle, but looks like a dove in some ways, all white. And I have this thought when I see this bird. It's the first thought that comes into my mind. I think, I wonder if I could fly like this bird. And that's what the bird's presence sort of called me to think, sort of spontaneously. And so I just found myself all of a sudden inside the consciousness of the bird looking down at myself. I could see myself sitting on the fire hydrant, and I could see all the other children running, and I could see the others that were finished and the ones that were struggling, and then all the other children that were out playing basketball or soccer, whatever they were doing. And I just floated in a timelessness. And I felt the consciousness of the being that was the bird. And it felt like a home, a kind of home. It felt like a kind of home that I had forgotten, that I remembered. And it felt expansive and never ending and soft and comforting. I just remember how being with the bird made me feel. I never forgot it. So I'm floating in my consciousness above the ground, and I am enveloped in this love of this spirit bird. And someone calls my name, Holly. And with that immediate, I was down in my body again, that immediate like call to presence in the physical world. I was in my body. And it was like a thunk feeling, like, whoa, it was actually very visceral, that I descended into something solid, and all of the sensations around me were so much louder than before, like the noise of everything and the children screaming and laughing and the bell ringing. And so, yeah. So today's story is a little bit of a short one, but the context of the moment of this first connection with Spirit Bird is interesting because at the time in seventh grade, I have already spent about 2 years using a lot of drugs off and on. I was living, you could say, in the projects, a bit of a ghetto light, maybe, but nevertheless, welfare, public housing type thing. And there wasn't a lot of money, there wasn't a lot of food, there wasn't a lot of supervision. And what I enjoyed doing a lot was staying out all night and coming to school or nearby elementary schools when no one was around with my older sister and all her cool friends who were drinking. And they were a couple years older than me, and they were hanging out with people that were a couple years older than them. So about 10 or 11, I started uh, participating in things that 10 and 11-year-olds or anybody should not be putting into their body, very detrimental toxins. I felt connected to that type of activity because it helped me feel freer than I felt when I felt confined to my circumstance. I wonder if anyone can relate to that. And anyways, it would be a little while still in my journey before I gave that up. But there was something about meeting this bird that reminded me of how I felt at a much earlier stage in life. When, like, I remember in kindergarten, I would climb trees and sit in them for hours and feel like I was talking to fairies or feral cats or the wind and the sun all around me. A time when I felt at peace and held in nature's caress always as a young girl, 3, 4, 5, 6, before things turned different in my own family circumstance and kind of thrown to the wind. So, a lot of times when we have spiritual experiences like this when we're young, we do remember them our whole lives. And they become like breadcrumbs if we remember how to listen, remember how to connect, remember how to trust what we can see that maybe no one else can see, and what we feel, because it's really what we feel that is real. And it's the breadcrumbs that are given by our own soul and the angelic beings and nature spirits that are championing our journey here and our soul's growth and our spirit becoming light, slowed down to the same speed where we can all see the reflection of our soul physically and embrace. Embracing one another is worth the journey. Embracing one another, being able to be held and to hold someone that you love, it's worth the journey of coming into form. And that's really what it's all about, whether we're holding each other physically and tactily, or we're holding each other in our hearts, even when we're miles away. But just to see each other's journey and to create a space of unconditional love, medicine. Medicine is the name of my healing arts company. And, meta means love. So I'm redefining what it means to care for somebody on their health journey and the healing capacity. I'll speak more about that from time to time. For now, maybe my experience with the spirit bird, I've always called the bird the white eagle, or sometimes red tail, because at times the bird would shapeshift into having a red tail besides its white. And later, much later, in a story that I'll tell soon, I would come to find out that the bird was the chief, is the chief, the spirit Native American elder that blasted my heart open in a afternoon nap when I was 33. And even though I don't know that at the time when I'm a child, looking back, I'm just so grateful that he's always been with me, and that the consciousness and the essence of love has always been able to penetrate the circumstances of false realities that I created in my mind based upon what was happening around me or what was told to me as a child growing. And, life is simply magical. Everything is alive. Everything communicates with everything else on the most subtle level. And if we open our heart and we become courageous enough not to fear who we truly are, well, there's nothing more powerful than the human spirit when in connection with the power, the creative source of love. So that's the story today. And this is day 5. I hope that we can build upon this and that perhaps you might feel inspired to share a little bit of your stories from when you were a child, of something that was inspiring to you. That's today's assignment if you'd like to participate. And I also encourage you to just take a little peek at the Shaman and You training information that I have online at hollybeatty.com, because it's a very inexpensive, accessible, friendly way to go on a journey this year and to meet the shaman in you. Thank you. See you next time.